Many teachers are focused on how they perform their teaching, or they try to discover the perfect teaching method in the classroom. A good teacher tries to fit his or her tools and methodologies according to his or her students and their needs. The most important thing when teaching is not the way a teacher stands in front of a class or how he or she performs, but how the teaching methods and techniques help the students in their learning process. As a teacher, you may use a textbook to completing classes at a certain time. Nevertheless, you have to focus not on the book, but on your students' learning process. If you prearrange plans and your students' learning process conflict, as a good teacher, you must prioritize your students' needs to reach successful learning of the language. Involving students in the learning process consists on motivating your students. Let them know that as a teacher you are interested in the learning process and you will help them with the difficulties. As a teacher, you have to create a good and enjoyable atmosphere in the classroom to make the learning process successful for your students, and the teacher must focus on creating an enjoyable lessons that would motivate students to participate and learn. Showing reactions when listening to your students demonstrate that you are interested in what they have to say, so students will be motivated, engaged, and will participate as the students know that you are interested in what they have to say and that you are interested in their learning process. Sometimes it's good to admit that something isn't easy, but if you are emphasizing it all the time, you might undermine a student's confidence. When teaching, you can admit that something is difficult or hard, but you must motivate and encourage your students to do the task successfully. If you are all the time saying something is hard and difficult and almost impossible to do, you will demotivate your students. As a teacher in the teaching and learning process, it is important to plan a class in which students don't get bored easily. A good idea is to combine exercise with games, such as puzzles, letter soups, and logic games, for example. So students will acquire knowledge while learning at the same time, and it could be said that they will acquire knowledge effectively and unconsciously instead of memorizing it and learning it mechanically. The students must have an active role by producing and speaking the foreign language in the classroom. As a teacher, you must encourage and prioritize a student's participation and practice, not yours. When teaching, you should avoid talking too much and unnecessarily and make a student have a more active role in the teaching-learning process. Just because a student is silent during a lesson doesn't mean that he or she is not immersed in what you are teaching. Many students just listen and learn. As a teacher, you must understand that there are different ways to participate in a class, either by talking a lot or simply listening and talking when the student deems it necessary. Don't pressure silent students to participate in your class. Adapt to them and their way of language learning.